Welcome to Paperbacks and Paychecks. It is Noelle here. I am your inclusive workplace bestie who just loves to sit down with a great book.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a recovered career coach and tech girly and used book hoarder.
This week, we're getting into the beautiful, chaotic intersection between books that broke us open and the jobs that nearly broke us down. So, we're going to talk all about those toxic workplaces and the books that really broke through for us. So we're going to get us started here with talking a little bit about books that really made us change. Like, what was the books for you, Sarah, that totally changed your brain chemistry? Like, what makes you feel because you read that right book?
Yeah. So I brought my hard copies to this episode. So one book that stuck out to me for this episode was Late Migrations by Margaret Rinkle. And wanted to talk about this book for just a second for a few reasons. So Late Migrations is a series of essays written by Margaret Rinkle. She's also written for like the New York Times as well. And I would describe her as a naturalist, and she writes kind of about love and loss, but also in the setting of nature. Why this book struck me was because it came out during the pandemic, and it came into my life during the time that the brick and mortar library location nearest me reopened for the first time during the pandemic. There was a while there where you could get books from the library, but it was like a curbside service. So this was like the first time I was able to go back into the library and really look around. And the way our library is set up is we have like this what's called Lucky Day collection, and you walk in and it's kind of like the bestsellers of the week, and the ones that just came out. They're at the top of all the reading lists. And there's also beside it kind of this library staff recommends section. And those are kind of my go-to spots.
Mhm.
Something about me, I don't read book summaries to pick out a book. I literally will just go to these two spots and I go by books that I know have been recommended.
Mhm.
They're trending, and I go by the book cover. That's it. I don't read book summaries.
Mhm.
I don't want spoilers. I just go by, this is going to be a good book. It's on, Reese Witherspoon's list
Yeah.
or Jenna Bush's list,
Mhm.
or, I've seen it on Book Talk,
Right.
and then I grab it.
Yeah.
That's
If it's
that's my
recommended enough, we're going for it.
exactly. Those are my
Mhm.
minimum qualifications. And so I saw this one, and again, it was just like that first time I got to go inside brick and mortar library again for a while, and it was on the staff recommended. I was like, okay, give it a try. And I hadn't gotten back into my reading is life phase that I'm in now.
Yes.
And been home with the kids, pandemic has hit. We're like, what is life? What
Mhm.
are we doing?
Mhm.
And so brought it home and started reading it, and I cried my eyes out. It's just love and lessons about growing older, caring for your parents, again, through the lens of nature, just becoming a backyard naturalist. And
Nice.
Margaret Rinkle is a native to Nashville. So
Oh,
not
nice.
only, yeah, so a lot of the mentions of local landmarks and local parks. Also, I'm like, oh yeah, I know Edwin Warner Parks. I know where she's talking about because she's from Nashville. And so I grabbed my copy, which is a signed copy that I purchased from Parnassus Books, which is, obviously an indie bookstore in Nashville. So, and it also has really great art in it, which I think her brother designs. She's had two or three follow-up books since that have also done quite well. So anyway, yeah, I think it was just the merging of the fact that I'm home all the time now, and I have time to look in my backyard and just watch the birds at the bird feeder during the
Yeah.
pandemic, and getting to read this kind of book that's narrating these thoughts that I'm also having at this time in my life. At the time, my husband was also kind of caring for his father, who was he was passing as well. So there was a lot of thoughts going on, and so yeah, that was one
Yeah.
of those books that kind of was just.
It
I
hits you
also
at the
went
right
back to my
moment.
hit me at the right moment.
Mhm.
To that point, prior to this discussion, I looked up on my Goodreads to see kind of where I was in my reading journey. And
Mhm.
so prior to that, the books I had read was I had read The Nightingale and The Four Winds, which are pretty intense like novels where
Okay.
you're just going to cry your eyes out and like the world just is horrible.
Okay. Yeah. So we
So
need a
it
little
was
bit of
just like
hope.
a,
Yes.
yeah, it was like a really
Bring
good
you
centering book.
through that. Yes. Yes. And sometimes like you need to be broken down in order to build yourself up a little bit, but you need to have that heartwarming connection book wherever you can. So love that.
Yes, exactly. So, Margaret Wrinkle, I know you live in the Nashville area. If you want to come be a guest on our show, I will meet you anywhere, any place, and we can definitely
Yes.
chat. But I also know you're super famous and write for the New York Times. But yeah, so that's
Too
my first
famous
book.
for us. I mean, with our
Maybe not. I
blooming
don't know.
podcast, you know?
I don't know. What about you, Noelle? What's your first one?
So my first one, and I need y'all to hang with me because I know this book gets a lot of hate, but it hit me again
Mm,
at the perfect time. You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. I know like the whole like self-help genre is like
I love that
really
one.
that book changed me as a person. And I wasn't able to make real breakthroughs in therapy until I read that book. And it's really she does such a great job. If you're not familiar with Jen Sincero, this whole series, and it's really the same book. She writes it like three different ways, but it's the same book three different times. But it's a manifestation book about all the things that are available to you. And I know all that woo-woo stuff is not everybody's thing, but she makes a good point that in the beginning of the book, she goes, listen, I went to all these different seminars and I read all these books and I was paying all these money to coaches and everybody is saying the same exact thing and you're buying all these things to hear the same thing. You just have to hear it from the right person and then it all clicks together. And that's what it was for me with her. I got to hear that and I was able to really have a better understanding because I had been through so much that I am opened for so much more and I don't have to be in this whole perpetual stuck state. Um
Mm,
a little bit about me for those of you who are listening who don't know me. I had a brain tumor that I had removed in 2012. And a few years after that, I mean, I'm really trying to figure out who I am. I had such a difficult time speaking. My favorite thing before the brain surgery was complaining. I was a great complainer. I was so good at it, like
were you
expert
like pro
level.
level?
Like I love to get and complain about my customers and all the things that are going on, but I was a pretty glum person. I just
Hmm.
was that's who I was. I wanted my life to be so much more after the brain surgery, but I didn't really know how to do that. And reading that book, I was like, I just want so much more out of my life. I wanted to transform my marriage. I wanted to transform my relationships with my son. I wanted to have better relationships with the people in my
Mm,
life. So what I ended up doing after reading this book, I'm like, listen, I can do anything. I have all these things at my fingertips. I just need to believe that it can happen. I took everything that was in my house, put it in a minivan, and we moved to Nashville where we didn't know a single person. And we just, made it work. Now, what's happened beyond that may have not been what was in my mind, but it made me feel like I could really do anything. And before, I just felt so stuck in my ways and so kind of listless. And it just helped me get better directed into my purpose because what I felt was possible for me, it just felt so far reaching and I would never get
mm.
there. And now I went from somebody who could barely speak. And if I was speaking, I was complaining to somebody who's very comfortable getting on stages. And this book was one of the reasons why I was able to do that.
I love that. I'm like 87.4% sure. The reason why I read that book was because you recommended it in a local professional group that we're both in like a
Probably.
Nashville
Yeah.
professional group.
Yeah.
And similar takeaways. I mean, I didn't like move to a new city, but similar takeaways in terms of like being a mom boss, starting your own business, and just
Mhm.
those that feeling of like I can do this. Like, I
Right.
mean, and I think for me, another phrase that I took away from that was, like start small, start today. Like, I'm not going to have like a whole conglomerate speaking training industry starting next
Hmm.
month, but I
Hmm.
can start a website. It was just this feeling of like, I can do something. Um,
Yeah.
I loved that.
Yeah, and it's like, why not you? I got that a lot from the book. Like, if it can be
Mm-hmm.
anybody. And actually, Elizabeth Gilbert's book Big Magnet also reminded me of that there's things that we have access to, and we have these great ideas, but we don't do it. So eventually, somebody else will. So why not you? You think that you need
Yeah.
to have all these tools in your toolbox, but you don't. You just like need to find your thing. So you are a badass. Jen Sincero, she did her thing. And even though the newer books seem to be the same thing, sometimes, like you said, you got to hear the same thing more than once to be able to lock it in. So I'll take it where I can get it.
Yeah. Yeah. No hate on the recycle some of your content to
I would.
redistribute your materials way. I mean,
Woo! We're talking about
yeah.
bestseller. Listen, we're here to get paid.
Mm-mm.
Listen. All right. So
100%. If it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, you do what you got to do. You recycle your content, however, to meet your audience where they are. I don't, no judgment.
and we eat it up. Okay. All right.
Yeah, we do.
So how about you? What's your second book?
Okay, so books that rewired my brain. Okay, so again, I was looking back at my Goodreads list and I was thinking back to like my reading journey, like when I really started to be like, I'm going to read 2 books, 3 books a week. Like, when did that really take off? And again, Sarah, middle of the pandemic, walking into the brick and mortar, just picking up a book from this Lucky Day collection, right? I don't read summaries. I just look at the cover. I look and I'm like, okay, this is obviously a popular book. Folks, I bring you to 2021.
Let's go.
And I pick up The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood.
See, now this is on my list. Say more, say more.
So up until this moment, baby Sarah has never read romance. Adult Sarah has never read, because before this, adult Sarah has never read romance. I mean, smut. I mean, just anything that wasn't just like, you know, contemporary fiction, a novel, right? Like the specific genre of contemporary romance. I have not up until this moment. And I mean, I can get the vibe from the cover. It's like a romantic comedy, but that's all I know. And talk about rewiring the chemistry of your brain. Literally chemistry, because there's like, you know, it's about chemistry and labs and like STEM. I fell literally in love with Ali Hazelwood. And why I fell in love, because she writes about, well, the, you know, those first few books take place in kind of like in the academia world. And I think her heroines, for lack of better words, you know, a lot of times they're relatable, because like most times like these are women in college or grad school, they're dirt broke. Yeah. They're like struggling with trying to be a woman in a STEM field, and not just like I have a Bachelor of Science, but a pretty soft science. I was geography. My lab was
know
like
that. That's cool.
Yeah, my lab was like GIS map making. Like she's like using like vials,
yeah,
proteins, and like analyzing genomes and stuff. Because you know, in real life, Ali Hazelwood is like a neuroscientist.
I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
Well, like I'm like
I don't know anything about her.
I'm like hyperventilating. Okay, like I met Ali Hazelwood in real life.
Really?
And like I couldn't. Yeah, so Ali Hazelwood and Christina Lauren had like an author event in Nashville, and they had like just a very quick line, like selfie line at the end. And I mean, in post, like I might, or maybe on our socials, I'll like reshare like the video or like the selfie of me. Like I literally look like a dog with my tongue out. I'm like when I really just, and they're like, okay, move on. But they're the best group. I mean, they're amazing. And Ali was actually the moderator of that event. And so the guests were really supposed to be Christina Lauren. And she's just, you can tell, the most gracious moderator. Like people were kind of there to also, for her, she's like a bigger name in a lot of ways. And they were asking her questions, and she was just like deferring to them. Like she's like, this is kind of about them. Anyway, Ali Hazelwood. So she's a brain scientist herself. So a lot of her characters are rooted in this women in male dominated fields. A lot of them are like I said, they're on a tight budget. They are self-conscious. They're trying to like, you know, just get their name on these research studies and not get them erased. They are, but they're also having great romantic moments. You know, it's like, it was this first time where I was reading these books and I'm like, oh, like everyday woman can like, you know, have these great romantic moments. And I don't know, I just completely fell in love with her heroines. And I mean, her men are okay. I mean, they're great. They're nerdy. Yeah. I mean, they're all nerds, which is fantastic.
Oh,
I love nerdy
nerds.
boys. I mean, they're all so nerds because they're all like these super nerdy men who are like, but it's so unreal. It's like these super nerdy men who are like finding cures for cancer, but they're also like super buff and who hurt you? You know, like they just, it's like, it's all of it. It's all of it. So Ellie Hazelwood completely changed my own brain chemistry. I love you. I would have your babies if you asked. I don't have the first copy of the book I read because it was a library book, but I've bought every physical book since. I love you, Ellie Hazelwood.
Wow.
So she is who I absolutely love and changed my brain chemistry.
Yes, that's been on my Libby list for a while, and I think I have to wait like 7 months for it. So it's time to
Mm,
just get it. It's time to just go and get it myself.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
that. And I love a good nerdy character in general. We just need to be able to have more of them. When it comes to men, I was working at a company and I love the nerds. Those are the ones I want to connect to. And really, the only guy friends I ever have are nerds. So I
Hmm.
was working at a new company and I went and was spending time with the IT guys. I'm like, we are going to be fast friends. It's like, what are you guys watching? Like, oh, yeah, really just football. And I was so disappointed. I was like, this isn't what I signed up for.
No, it's anime, and we're playing D&D, and like, where
What's
do you
happening?
have like what color is your magic deck? Like,
What are
we
you?
speak now.
I was so disappointed. The next book that I'm really excited to share is Talia Hibbert. And this is a little bit of a cheat because it is a series, but it's the
Hmm.
Brown Sister series. So, Talia Hibbert, if you're not familiar with her, she's a Black author from the UK. She's autistic,
Oh.
and she writes the most incredible, super funny romantic comedies. And I was introduced to her from the Brown Sister series, which is about three sisters, and they all have these really great stories. And they follow a lot of the same tropes that we see in romantic comedies, but they just work together so well. So in the first book, we have the oldest sister, and she has fibromyalgia, and it talks a lot about living with invisible disability and what that can feel
Mm,
like, and how she can be perceived as somebody who's a little bit more surly, even though she's not. Her being able
mm,
to find love despite having that disability. And the
mm.
other book, which is my favorite, Take a Hint, Danny Brown, we have a really eccentric, bisexual, really curvy, loves herself character who is forced into this fake relationship with a guy who is a rugby player, but he also just loves a good romance book. So he's a security
Oh, he
guard
loves a
and
good romance book.
he loves a good romance book. She's not really that
Uh,
much into love. That's not his thing. But him, he's a security guy and he's this big burly fella, but he has his headphones on all the time. And but what are you listening to? And it's always a romance book. I think that's so sweet,
I
so
love
cute.
that.
It's so adorable. And in the third book, it's the youngest sister who's a little immature, and they're saying, "Listen, you need to figure out something to do with your life because you're not really doing anything besides using all of our money, and you need to get a real job." So she goes out to find a real job and finds herself stuck in a situation where she has to work in this hotel, and she's this, I guess what they call the grumpy sunshine mix. So she's really sunshiny, and the guy in it is really sick of how bright and sunny that she is. But there's just something about her that he can't get enough of. Just to add another layer there, it's open in the beginning that he's autistic and she's also autistic. So it's just
Oh,
she does such a good job of blending in all of these elements when we're taking a look at inclusion, and my work is in DEI, so I love inclusion focused work. And in every book there is they're an interracial couple, but the
oh.
black identity is never missed, and I just love the intention behind that. We learn a little bit about all these different characters and how they all come together, but they're all so funny. The spicy scenes are perfectly spicy because I like some spice, but I don't want to be like
Is it
I have
like
to close the book after I can't believe I was into that. Like I don't want to feel shame
right?
after I reading a spicy scene. And she does such a good job with them that you are fanning yourself and laughing and having such a good time. And for me, I wasn't really into romance books. I've never read them before. I just thought that they were probably pretty cheesy and not for me, but
Right.
it gave me light when I really needed to, because it is lighthearted. And it also gave me I know men that are written by women don't exist, but it just gives you a little bit of hope for some reason that there's just something like that that's out there. And I love it. And if I ever met her,
Totally.
I didn't get the Allie Hazelwood experience, but if I ever got an opportunity to meet Talia, I would just thank her a million times because she just kind of opened me up to a whole different genre and also stopped me from putting my nose down to it because I read everything that was so, so serious. And
A
everything doesn't need
hundred
to be.
percent. That's exactly how I felt about Ellie Hazelwood. Like, I just
Mhm.
assumed romance was cheesy. I put my nose down to it. Like, I assumed that if you read romance, like, you're just like this old housewife who read like the thick like novels with like Fabio half dressed on the cover, and like that's what romance books were. Like that's my only impression of a romance book, and I just didn't realize like a contemporary romance book can still make you feel like powerful and be like
Yes.
confident and be like, yes, girl. And like, not because of the romance, just like give you, this feeling of independence and confidence. And yeah, exactly. I love the way that the Ali Hazelwood books have made me feel.
Yeah. Yes. And for me, especially with the element of these being Black protagonists, it's seeing Black curvy women be loved
Mm.
appropriately. And it's never like an insecurity about the body. It's like everybody is, and I see this as a theme in Talia Hibbard's books. They're almost always curvy characters, but they are irresistible to these men anyway. It's not a, oh, I'm just so insecure about my body and I just don't, they're like, mm-mm, this is me. You're so lucky to have a moment with me. Like just
Uh
like
huh.
so much confidence because I get so tired of the let me hide myself. There is none of that. There's no shame. They're just about like really boldly and bravely. I shouldn't say brave, but it is. It like it just means so much to see those stories because I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I love that. Adding to my TBR, which is already like, miles long, but what do you do? I mean,
What do you
got to
do?
keep adding to it.
Before we go into toxic workplaces, I'm interested with you when it comes to a good romance read. What are you looking for? Because some of them are cheesy, but sometimes a little bit of cheese is good. I like a good brie, like the next girl.
I don't know. So actually this weekend, so I actually saw a bunch in one spot and I was thinking the same thing. So okay, let me tell you about this weekend. This weekend I was downtown in the Gulch. So I know you used to live in
Mhm,
Nashville, but so the Gulch is kind of like this kind of pretty cool hip area. And I walked by this pop-up trailer that literally had a line going like dozens and dozens of feet down the sidewalk of like 20 women. And it was for this black pop-up bookmobile called
mhm,
Slow Burn Books. And it
mhm,
was filled with books of just romance centered paperbacks. And I mean, I guess there were some hardbacks in there, but they were mainly, but the genre was just romance novels.
mhm,
And there was like a line going through the trailer out the back and like several
mhm,
feet down the sidewalk. And I was like, what is going on? And it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. So all these women were in line for this book, for this like bookmobile that they'd seen on TikTok. And I got in line. It was like a 35-40 minute wait. And I was like, had the best time because I'm chatting with all these women in line and like they're all like on book talk. They're all talking about all the same books that we're talking about here.
mhm.
And so you get closer into this trailer and you see they're all separated into all these genres. There's like dark romance, there's like sports romance, there's
Mhm,
rom-com, there's romantasy,
mhm,
I mean, it's like there's so many genres and I didn't even realize that there's like all these different genres. And so you get in there and it's so cute. There's like tote bags and magnets and bookmarks.
mhm,
And anyway, so I got in there and I met the owner. Her name is Tanya. She's the coolest.
mhm.
There were people from, I mean, the people in front of us, they came all the way from Knoxville. They were in town
Oh,
for a
wow.
concert, but they had recognized her trailer from
Mhm,
TikTok, and they had
mhm.
stopped by before leaving town just to go to the Slow Burn Books
Yeah.
trailer. And anyway, so I talked to Tanya for a bit, told her about our podcast. She was all about it. She thought it was so cool. And anyway, so when I'm in this trailer and I'm looking at all these different genres of like romance books, to your question, I'm thinking like, what am I kind of into? And for me, I think that I'm my safe zone. I
Yes.
find myself over in the Tessa Bailey, Allie Hazelwood, Emily
Mhm,
Henry, Abby
mhm,
Jimenez. I'm going to
mhm.
say like the rom com areas, which I don't
Yeah.
know if this is the right phrasing, but like it might be like the gateway book into
Yeah.
like smut, if that's the right phrasing. On
Yeah.
the opposite side of the trailer, though, it's kind of where you find like your Sarah J. Moss, your kind of, your Akatars.
Mhm.
There's also this kind of subsection over there that's kind of like, I don't know, Noelle, like help me out here. Maybe you know, or maybe we need to Google this. What is this young adult fiction happening here? Because Sarah
Yeah.
J. Moss was actually considered juvenile fiction,
Yeah, I've seen it
but it's
marked as
spicy.
It's spicy. I see it named as like young adult fiction or not YA. It's
Yes.
new adult, not young adults. So like there's
Oh,
like this distinction of there's because she was 19, Feyre in the first one. So it's like a coming of age
okay.
kind of, but they're not a child. So I saw a new adult labeled, but I don't know if
Okay.
that's common
So
or
they're of
yeah.
age, but
Yeah.
still spicy.
Yeah, it's giving very much like barely legal and
It is, but there's like
uh,
a whole subcategory of that
yeah.
in book talk. But like
Yeah.
because there's this other series I've seen like the Powerless with like a there's like a
Yes.
sword on the cover. That was really popular.
Yes.
So there's several series that kind of have like that darker escapey vibe, darker
Right.
romanticy vibe.
Mhm.
I don't know that I have time for that. I don't think that's my jam right now. I feel
Mm-mm.
like after my investment in Akatar and Crescent City series, I feel like my bandwidth has like narrowed for
Yeah.
investing in realms. Like
Fair.
I need to like stick to planet Earth for a bit. Like it
Yes.
just to my little mind to wrap around another realm and like
Yeah.
other laws of physics and species and backstories and political drama and different
Right.
topographies. Like
Mhm.
there's a lot happening in America right now that I'm
True.
trying to like keep going.
Mhm.
And sometimes I need to escape that, and that's why I go to books. But then other times I'm like, I'm barely hanging on here
Yeah.
on planet
Mhm.
Earth.
Yes.
So I think for me to go back to the first question you had was going through this trailer and seeing all the different kinds of genres that I feel like Tanya is just so well just curated and just put into
Mhm.
this like great place. For me, I just kind of gravitate towards like the happy rom-coms. Like I said, the
Yeah.
Emily's, the Abby's, the Christina Lauren's, the I just that's those are my happy places. And I think partially because I know they're gonna end on a good note. Like
Yeah.
we're going to go through the tropes. We're going to be enemies to lovers. We're going to be like, close proximities. We're going to be fake dating. We're going to be
Yeah.
paradise problems, love experiment. We're going to do all the tropes, but we're going to end up on a happy note. And I think that's what I want in my romance right now is just like, I think I've been through torture.
Right.
Been through a
It's
lot with
good.
Sarah J. Maas lately. And I don't need any more of that in my life.
Yeah. No, it's hard to like
That's
get
a long
into a
answer. I'm
whole
sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, I'm with you. I think I needed to go through the SJM thing because I just needed to be able to connect with what's going on in book talk in general, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's just a good place to get started. But I don't need the fantasy element. Some fantasy I think is probably good, but it's never been my favorite genre to begin with. But I really want the love stories to be really clear for me. I don't like enemies to lovers when the guy is too mean. I was reading
Yeah.
Amid Cloud and Bone, and it was like, yeah, he tried to kill me when I was a child, and he's
That's like
also,
a
yeah, he
the
like,
redemption arc has to be
right.
real pointed.
Yeah, like he spit in my face like the day that I met him. I'm like, I don't think I can actually
Ooh,
move past this. And
yeah.
but it's like, but she thought it was sexy. Like I can't, like that's not me. That no, I mean,
Mm.
I'm not gonna yuck somebody's yum, but that's just not for me. So I really do the same thing. I like,
Where did you come up with these?
not even like that's really what happens. Like this guy is just horrible to her. And I started reading it. I was like, why is she?
I'm not gonna
She's
yuck somebody's
she's like
yum.
he defiled me and treated me like trash, but something about him. I'm like, what, girl?
But it was the smoldering.
You're
Watch
a
out.
victim, ma'am. Please escape. Oh my God, what do you mean they have to get married? I was just, it's not for me. So I really like it. I like it when
Oh.
I love a good yearner. Like yearn for me, baby. Like that's I love a
What,
guy that's
what? I'm
a
sorry?
someone the yearning, like when a man's yearning
Like
for
pining.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I thought that was like a whole specific subsection, like a very specific niche.
No, they always call it yearning, but like somebody that's really pining after, but like the way that it's written about like all the words that he's saying. Like I really like a really good speech about
Like a
love
long
from
love note to somebody.
I love that. So enemies to lovers, if you're too mean, I'm out. Like I'll never
Hmm.
forgive you. And I found that was true with Akatar. I never got past it. And I can't move on.
Hmm.
So I really like something that's really light. I like a good romantic
Hmm.
comedy, but what really drives me is if the authors really good? Because I've read some romantic comedies that are fine, but they're not great. And I want to read
Yep.
something that's just really good, solid writing and can
Yeah.
also give me a sense of lightness. Because if it's just too silly, I can't connect.
Yeah. I feel like I've not had a miss with Carly Fortune.
Hmm.
She's like very like summer, meet me at the lake. I feel like Abby Jimenez has just been
Hmm.
spot on. I have, that's the book I bought. Do I have it? Yes, I do. This is the book I bought from Slow Burn Books this weekend.
Oh,
It's
I heard it's really
the new
good.
one. I've heard it's so good. And it's interesting because this is, yeah, Abby's first hardback. It's not a paperback, which like,
Oh, nice.
yeah, this is what Tanya and I were talking about. Like, if you have all of Abby's books on a shelf, like this is going to be your one hardback, which is like for those who collect books in
Stands
a
out a little
series,
bit.
like that's kind of like
Yeah.
is like you just like you like all your books to kind of match. My current read, for those interested, is my book of the month is Jennifer Weiner, The Griffin Sisters' Greatest Hits. I guess I'm about where am I? About right here, I guess. I don't know how I feel about it yet, but that's my book of the month, and yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
got a
that's
lot going
good.
on.
I'm reading A Great Big Beautiful Life. Well, not reading. I read it immediately. I consumed it. It was
The Emily
incredible.
Henry book, the new
The
one.
new Emily.
She's always pretty good. I mean, she's like, I don't really have a miss with her. I have like some I like more than others, but Emily Henry's always usually a good one too.
It's interesting because this is not really a romance book, and maybe
Yeah.
and we don't have to talk about this whole podcast. We'll probably bring it up because it's like such like a big book
Mm-hmm.
talk thing. But it's really more
Mm-hmm.
of women's literature and the stories of the woman that she's interviewing, who's elderly, and like her life and the main
Oh.
character's life. And it really feels like the love story is kind of in the background. It's like a nice to have, but it's more like the cherry
Hmm.
on top of the sundae. It's not really the crux of the book.
Interesting.
So it's a
That's kind
nice
of
to have, but
giving like, have you read the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo?
no.
That kind of gives that vibe. That one's a good one.
Okay, that one's on my list though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
That's a good one.
so transitioning. Talk
Do you want to talk about
about
some paychecks?
let's move into paychecks, girl. So now we're gonna talk about toxic workplaces. Okay,
Awesome. Let's survive a
so
toxic workplace.
let's talk about it. So Sarah,
Yes.
if you could share, because I think this is something that everybody goes through. You're in
Mm-hmm.
a workplace where you're like, I don't know what to do. This is not where I want to be. So, can you share a toxic workplace story for us and really like any tips that you would give on navigating going through that situation?
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to anonymize this a bit because I
Yeah.
mean it is like my real life, and I, even though I don't have most of this on my resume, I don't
Hmm.
want it to be like some of these people are obviously still around. But I will say that I did have an experience where I applied for a job
Hmm.
and I feel like I knew like day 3 of being in that job that the position was not as described. And I got that vibe based on the well, not coworkers, but the people who I would be working with in that
Hmm.
role. So I think that the the giveaway was when you talk about when you're meeting people in a new role and people are like, "Oh, what are you going to be doing in this new role?" And you're like, "Oh, well, so and so, my boss said I'll be
Hmm.
doing X, Y, and Z." And you can kind of tell when these people are like, "Oh, you'll be doing that?" Or they're
Oh,
like, "Oh, I didn't think this position was doing that. I thought this position was doing
yeah.
this."
Hmm.
Though that's a red flag to me of,
Hmm.
the an inconsistent messaging on what this role's goal is going to be.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think tools and or trick or how to avoid that in the future. And so I think if I could go back and tell little Sarah like, hey, let's work through this in an interview, when you are in a panel interview, especially when we are working with the question of, what obstacles do you foresee this position facing? Let's give that question to each person in the room and not open it to just one person to answer.
Hmm.
So I think when we get into situations like the one I just described, we can get into one person in the group interview kind of answering on behalf of the group. And we don't allow a chance for everybody on the panel to give their opinion or their perspective on what they think is going to be the issue that this position will face. So phrasing your question in a way of saying, I would really welcome the chance for everybody to let me know what they think this position's ultimately, their biggest obstacle is going to be in the first 3 months, and allowing everybody to kind of voice their opinion on what that is, giving you a chance to get some insight into how each person is going to view this role day in and day out.
Hmm.
One of my biggest key takeaways that I always prep people when I'm doing interview prep is you are interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. So
Absolutely.
if you go into an interview, especially a panel or group interview, and basically one person answered on behalf of everybody and didn't give anybody else a chance to chime in,
Hmm.
to me, that is a little bit of a red flag. That's kind of saying this person is really kind of molding how they want everyone's to perceive the output of this position. So use that as an opportunity to really fine tune how everybody is perceiving what this position is going to be doing day in and day out. Because otherwise, you could end up, in that example of getting in there on day 2 and day 3 and realizing everybody has a completely different opinion on what they think this person is supposed to be doing.
100%. That makes so much sense. And just being able to find ways to advocate for yourself and understanding what's not okay. Like if you really understand yourself and what's the green flag and what's not a green, like I think that when we're really looking for working right now in this economy, you're taking whatever you can get. But if you really
Yeah.
understand those flags and you know what to say or what to do when those come up for you, it's one of the best skills that you can develop.
Absolutely. And even if you're taking a job offer in this economy, you can
Hmm.
still take those notes you took in that interview process and still build off of those and work with
Yeah.
each of those individuals and say, during my interview you mentioned XYZ. I'd love to work with you on,
Hmm.
how can we avoid this? And
Absolutely.
so, use that as your game plan for your 3 month your 3 month ramp up.
I'll share a toxic workplace story with you too. My first job when I moved to the Nashville area was definitely one of the most toxic places that I've worked in. And this is one that I'm comfortable sharing. It's not on my socials because I just don't want to be connected with the way that things are going down here. But it was a company that was just run so problematically in the attempt of building communities. So we'll see this a lot in tech companies where they'll say, "Oh, well, we have we'll play football together and we have all this food that's available and there's all these really great perks, but the work itself is so incredibly problematic, right?" So we had a CEO that was very young, would come in on the scooter and playing like Notorious B.I.G. like, "Hey everybody, what's going on?" and like shooting Nerf balls at us and I'm saying Nerf bullets at us. I'm like, I just it's not what I signed up for, and I got in trouble once because I said I didn't wanna be a part of a Nerf gun fight in the middle of getting, like, all this compliance work done. It's like, "So you're just not a team player." But what was interesting to me and I actually, coined the phrase corporate gaslighting because I started having conversations with folks, and we're like, "No, all this is totally normal." And then they put up these posters that said things like, "Stay in your own lane and don't be a complainer." And it was just like work propaganda. And I started to feel
Wow.
like I was literally losing my mind because nobody else was saying anything. And I would see sometimes people crying on their lunch break, "Hey, is everything okay?" "Yep. Nope. Everything is great here."
Oh
And
my
it was
god.
just really ridiculous things that were happening behind the scenes. I found out much later that were so toxic. So for a little while, I feel like maybe I was staying there for the plot. I don't know what was going on with me during that time because the stories were so good. Like they were like yum, 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 like delicious, great gossipy stories. But after a while, like I started getting caught up into the mix, and it just wasn't good. I was getting phone calls from the executives all day long. It'd be 6 o'clock in the morning. I'd get a call about the way that they feel in their marriage that day. It's just really inappropriate,
Whoa.
really strange place to work. So
Yeah.
for me, it's being able to build a runway out as soon as you feel like things are bad. But even when things are good, I think there's nothing wrong with having your application out there. Always
Oh,
having your open to work on LinkedIn, but have a presence online too, right? So when I was looking to go on to the next thing, I wanted people to know who I am, what I'm about, and, have access to me and what I can bring to their organization. So I was starting to post on LinkedIn quite a bit during that time, not to let everybody know I was looking for a job, but just have some kind of a presence and start to build up on my professional brand. So I spent the last 6 months at that role really focused on what is next for me so that I don't run
Hmm.
into the same kind of a role. Because it's not just like a toxic workplace. The work I was doing day to day wasn't really fulfilling me. So what comes
Hmm.
after this and starting to develop that with my branding, see what hits with folks, see what doesn't, start to ask folks feedback on what do they think I do? What do they think? What are some words that people would use to describe me? And when I was hearing those words back, I'm like, ooh, that doesn't sound like me at all. But if I'm hearing that's what I'm giving out, what do I need to pivot? So I spent that time really building myself up and understanding who I am, how I'm perceived, and what do I want to pivot. And then I started to work my way out. So I think just using, if you're in a bad place, to see it as an opportunity to gauge who you are, where you want to be, and start getting some feedback from folks that know you the best.
Yeah. I think along those lines as well, when you know it's time to kind of create some runway out, and how to kind of stay sane a bit while you're trying to search in a toxic environment. I know you mentioned LinkedIn. I think there's always a place for LinkedIn in some way. I have beef with LinkedIn.
Okay.
And just because I feel like the last 5 years, LinkedIn has just become this place of just like fake inspirational messages of,
Yeah.
it's just very like, I don't want to make fun of people,
No, it's like
but
I cut this person off and turns out that they were the person in my interview. I should have thought about that better for next time. Or yeah.
I literally this morning, somebody had just posted a picture of like some cookies on a cookie sheet and they were putting it in the oven and they were like, let me tell you how baking cookies with my son this weekend is like marketing. And I'm like,
I
I
know.
couldn't even click on it, right? So it's like, their call to actions and their clickbait. It's like,
Yeah, not
I don't know. It's just
everything is
not my vibe.
content.
It's not my vibe. It's also
Mm.
highly political. Like I'm constantly seeing stuff about our president on there, about,
Ugh.
the economy on there. That being said, I think the last 10, 11 years of my career have been mainly freelance and self-employment and contract and engagement based. And so I think my last four engagements, a recruiter has found me on LinkedIn. I
Mhm,
haven't even had my open to work on. I've just had like just a
mhm,
really nice alignment with the skills that are needed and what I had listed.
mhm.
And it just worked out really well. So I don't want to say like, you can't, it's not useful to anybody. That's not true. I find work on LinkedIn. What I don't find on LinkedIn is my posts or somebody else's posts being coming to fruition employment for me. What I
Yeah,
do have employment is just direct messages from recruiters. I don't know how that works. I don't know how the algorithms work. I just know personally
yeah,
for me, the takeaways of what people post, I don't get. But that being said, so staying sane during a toxic job search, I do think the importance of having a real accountability partner and having a job searching buddy is just cannot be overstated. And I don't mean somebody on LinkedIn. I think
mhm.
like an actual human friend who I mean, it
Yes,
can be a remote person, but not just somebody who you're like putting a like on,
yeah,
hey, it's a toxic place out there, but stay positive and you put a like on it. That's
right.
not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
Mm,
about somebody who's texting you at 2 in the afternoon, like, got another rejection email. This is BS. I hate
mhm,
this. But they're like,
mhm,
hey, I'm holding space for you. This does
mhm,
suck. I also am getting this. Here's, what I'm thinking, or like sending you funny gifts. You know what I mean? Like
mhm.
a human element that is in the weeds with you, but also trying to keep your spirits up, being pragmatic with you, holding you accountable, sending you links, knowing what you're looking out for, vice versa. I think
Mhm.
that is so important in this job market, especially, but just any time when you're trying to stay sane in a toxic environment. Like I
Yeah,
said, LinkedIn isn't it for me anymore. It might have been at one point. It's just, maybe when I first got out of college and I was entering the Great Recession and I'm like, I'm not alone. But today
mhm,
it feels so spammy. I just need to know
mhm.
that like I would text somebody like you and be like, okay, you're my accountability partner.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm the opposite. I do find that uh, LinkedIn is really filled with a lot of AI posts and a lot of fake
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. I do find that it's become more political lately, which I don't really recommend engaging with unless you're in a role that um it's more accepting of those ideas being more open, and you just don't know when you're job searching. But for me, and right now I have about 6,000 followers on LinkedIn. So what's been
Humble
good,
brag, hashtag.
I mean, just a little bit, 7, 8,000 on
But you
TikTok, it's
have
fine.
like actual
But
content that
But
came from
that's
a
what I mean.
human.
If you're I use it so that people know who I am, and when I'm looking for work like I am right now, it's reiterating that I'm still looking and people understanding what all my skill sets are, and I engage with the posts of the folks that I want to stay engaged with. So the people that are in my network, I don't want to feel like a stranger to them. If I do know somebody who's looking for somebody that I can connect them over with, or they have a speaking opportunity that I can come and speak to them about, people don't know until I'm active on there who I am. But I feel like on LinkedIn, if you're there 15 minutes a week, you're like doing way more than most people are. Nobody's
Mhm.
saying, oh my gosh, I was up till 1 o'clock in the morning just scrolling on LinkedIn. I couldn't take my eyes away. It's not that social media platform. So I feel like it's great to have somewhat of a presence, but it really is up to you. I have worked with recruiters that have said that they have hiring managers that will not move forward with somebody who doesn't have a LinkedIn account. So I think at a minimum have
You have
something,
to
but
have a
it's a
profile.
you have to have
Yeah.
a profile, but it's okay if you're not someone that's really active. But if you're gonna be on there, and I used to be a LinkedIn coach, so I can talk about this at an I could talk about this all day, but I think that it's essential that if you're going to be on there, make sure that you're representing yourself the way that you want to be seen. And if you're going to be active, keep in mind what you're liking. Keep
100%.
your
And we
likes
talked
in your
about this
head.
all the time with our students. It was like,
Hmm.
don't forget, like, it's not just about what you post, it's about what you like, because that shows up in other people's news feeds as well. So if you're liking some like busty woman's picture for no
Right.
reason did she need to post, or it's like looking good, Lisa, like old
Right.
coworker with some busty photo, like absolutely not was that necessary, Lisa, nor you, Troy, for putting a like on it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that
Like
is
it in your head. You don't have to like it for everybody to
just
see. I mean, if it's
yeah.
online, do what you want to do with it. But there are a lot of times where I think, oh, I should add to this conversation that I have no business adding to that conversation. There's enough stuff
Mhm.
that's already there and it's not going to be great for my brand. So why am I feeling like I need to
Everything you
interact?
post is part of you.inc, and it is your
Absolutely.
brand.
Yes.
And it
So
is
be
your
smart.
brand.
Yes, yes. Treat it like a business because you deserve
It is.
that. So this is great. I hope this was helpful for anybody that finds himself in a toxic workplace. If you are in a toxic work environment and you want to get some advice, feel free to send us an email. We're at paperbacks and paychecks at gmail.com. And we love to read your story and give you feedback on what you can do from here. We have lots of experience and on this, and anything that we don't, we'll be happy to just give you what we can. Yeah.
Yeah. And reach out to us on our socials. We also have a poll with every podcast that gets uploaded on Spotify. So we always have a poll. We'd love to read the results of those on our shows as well. So continue to engage with us, and we want to share those results and read our listener call outs as well on the show. So
Absolutely. So
stay engaged with us.
stay connected and follow us on TikTok and Blue Sky. We're always posting stuff there. Let us know what are some books that may have changed your brain chemistry after reading this, and or share maybe a workplace that tried to break your spirit but didn't, because we're not going to let these companies break us down, right?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. All right. Thanks, everyone. Love talking to you.
Bye.
Bye.